Okay, hopefully we are starting our live stream here. We're still working on some technical difficulties, making sure that everybody's online. As soon as we get that situated, we will begin our board meeting for today, the 10th of August. I would expect just a few minutes here for us to get everybody situated, since some of our computers are being a little finicky and booting some people off. So give us just a second here to test everything out.
Okay, wait.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, hear you.
Okay.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody's here. It looks like
You're
it
streaming.
seems like our live stream is good. So Dr. Swab, it's all up to you.
Great. I'd like to thank everybody for coming for the Bradford Exempted Village Board of Education October 10th regular meeting. I'd like to call to order. If we could stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with
liberty, justice for all.
That'll be much appreciated to be back in a live setting to do that. That's a little bit disorienting.
No.
So roll call, please.
Dr. Swab.
Here.
Swab.
Here.
Mrs. Brewer.
Here.
Pastor Reindl.
Here.
Mr. Biesecker.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening to our virtual board meeting, which we initiated at our meeting in August 20th, 2020. The agenda this evening is a combination of reports from our administrative staff, our new and old business, and approving our Neola policies. Next item on our agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions to the printed agenda? Hearing none, could I have approval to approve the agenda as?
So move.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call for approval, please.
Pastor Reindl.
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Dr. Swab.
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
Next item on our agenda is approving of minutes. We've had the opportunity to review the July 13th regular meeting and August 4th special meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Thanks, Mike. And I will second. Any discussion or additions? Hearing none, roll call for approval.
Pastor Reindl.
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Dr. Swab.
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
Next item on our agenda is our administrative reports. So I turn the meeting over to Mr. Hurst, our superintendent.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Swab. I've got a number of things to talk about here this evening. First of all, our vestibule project, which was partially paid for through a grant with the Bureau of Workers' Compensation, is ahead of schedule right now. The deadline is Friday this week to get everything situated. They've got almost everything done in the back part, the two vestibules back here. They've got a little bit to do up in the front part, that third vestibule up there. So it's almost complete, and we've been assured that everything will be wrapped up before the deadline of the 15th, which is Friday this week. So hopefully we're all good there. And if you haven't seen them, they look absolutely amazing. I'm excited for the safety differences that we're going to have with them. And of course, I'm hoping the remainder of the bill will be paid for. It'll take a number of years, of course, through the savings with our utility bills. Second piece, we have a few updates to our restart plan. This is all listed on our website, or at least it should be. If it's not already, it will be soon. But there's really only 4 changes from the announcement that we had on Tuesday. I will go through those real quick. On the first page, at the first paragraph, it just simply added, we just simply added the quote, "These plans will remain in effect until the guidelines are lifted from the mandates of the COVID restrictions." On the second page, in the middle or at the end of option number 1 in the first section, talking about daily expectations of students and parents, it basically says students will be encouraged to bring their own water bottles, as the water fountains will be shut off during the school day, allowing access to only the bottle fillers. And the purpose in that is there'll be less hands and less mouths. If anyone's been around, especially the elementary water fountain, sometimes that's a cootie factory. So we've been trying to eliminate those possibilities of transmitting those germs from one to the next. And hopefully those water bottle fillers will be accessible there, and allow people to use those and keep water with them at all times. So yes, if you want to send water bottles with your children this next year, we are strongly encouraging that, and that way they can keep that with them in their classrooms and not have to use the water fountains themselves. Under the section labeled Daily Expectations of Teachers and Staff, there is a parenthesis at the end of it that simply says, "as long as this follows the guidance of state and local requirements," and that's talking about not having to wear face masks in a classroom. And then the last part, and I'll do an overview after this, the last part is an actual face mask paragraph in the restart plan, and it simply says, "within reason, Bradford Exempted Village School District will enforce all recommendations of the state and local authorities. While a face mask mandate is in place, we will abide by the orders/requirements until the mandate is lifted, unless other alternatives are available." So this means basically we are still waiting for the actual plan to be released by the governor's office. We were expecting to see that by now. I got word from actually our attorney today that we would be seeing that mandate coming out in writing tomorrow from the governor's office. When that comes out, we will be able to piece that together and make sure that we're still on the same page. One of the pieces with that is there's a discrepancy or a question of whether, if we still have 6 feet apart between all of our students, will we still have to require our students to wear masks each day? If we are able to keep that distance and not have masks, we will continue to abide by those rules. But in most cases, I think most people would prefer to have the distance as opposed to masks, but I know in some situations it's just the opposite. So when that time comes, obviously, if we do have those options, we will be considering which way to go with that. But at this point, it will be handled, I think, in different ways depending on the situations. If anybody has questions this evening, and this was something I probably should have started with, if anybody has questions, we're going to handle questions from the public in the same way we did last Tuesday. You are welcome to chat through the YouTube feature. If anybody has questions that I can answer, I will certainly do that as time permits. And if you have specific questions that even you can't get through tonight, please email me. My email address is jhurst@bradford.k12.oh.us. Again, that's jhurst@bradford.k12.oh.us. The next piece, I don't know if we've got any questions just yet. Looks like maybe we do. Oh, no, my laptop shut off, so I will have to reboot that to make sure that we've got questions coming through. Apparently, we need some juice in that. So I will be working on that momentarily. Calendar updates. We have a proposal tonight to change our calendar to a small extent. We are We listened to the public and some of the feedback we had from Tuesday's meeting, and we decided that there's more of a benefit to having our conferences the way they were structured in previous years. So we are adding those 2 dates back into our calendar. So on November 5th, we will have a full day of conferences, which will be a very long day for teachers from 8 o'clock in the morning to 7 p.m. And we will schedule those just like we always do, assuming we're still everything as normal. We will have an additional night of conferences from 3:15 to 7 o'clock on February 3rd. And because of those 2 evening pieces, we will have a comp day for teachers and staff members on November 6th. So November 5th and November 6th will now be days where students will not be here at school. So if all goes well tonight and this calendar is adopted, it will be published on our website as late as tomorrow, and you'll be able to see that there. One other piece that needs to be added back in here, the 2-hour early releases for conferences now obviously would not be needed, so those will be removed. And then all of the early release times will now be at 1:10, which is a true 2-hour early release for our students. And then the last part of our calendar revision is open house. We don't know what open houses are really going to look like this year. We're still structuring what that looks like. Right now, the plan is an outdoor drive-through type of conferences with each of the parents that want to come in and visit with their respective teachers. We are moving that from the early proposed of September 3rd to September 1st, which is a Tuesday night. That being said, if the weather looks sketchy, we will push that back because it is outdoors to the 3rd of September from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock in the evening. So again, 5 to 7 on September 1st will be open house with a rain date of the same time, 5 to 7 on September 3. Okay, we have on the agenda a remote learning plan. This is a plan that was put together in collaboration of our administration here, along with collaboration from area school districts to basically put a plan together if we are shut down from the governor or the governor's office or the CDC to say that we are going to remote learn this year. This plan will put all that together and show exactly what that is. It basically is the same as what we've talked about before. We will have a Google platform. We will have the possibility of one other piece of curriculum inside of that. And then we will also offer things like Class Dojo to be able to communicate better with our community. So if that works well, that is our plan for tonight. Next month, I will be talking about our nurse needs here in our district. We have a nurse in our district that does a great job, but she's only here 4 days a week. So we want to expand that to make sure somebody's here each of the 5 days while students are in session. So I've got a plan put together for next month that we will put in front of the board for a vote to hopefully be able to fill that void of the extra day each week. And then the last part I have that wasn't actually put on the agenda, and that's because if you watched our governor speak on Thursday in fact, I think it was actually Friday this last week, Lieutenant Governor Houston announced that there would be a grant program out there for school districts to supply hotspots to anybody in need. So if a student fits into the category of having a free lunch, if a student is a vulnerable child as set forth by the definitions of the Ohio Department of Education, if a student has a chronic condition or a student does not have other access to the internet, they are capable of receiving a hotspot from this grant to put in their house to get Wi-Fi access during this COVID shutdown. If you or anybody you know, and I realize we're broadcasting online right now, which is kind of condescending for the spirit of this, but if you know of people that do not have hotspots or do not have internet access in their home, this hopefully will be able to help. Tomorrow I will send out a one call to outline how to get a hold of us, but that outline is going to be sending me an email, and hopefully everybody has access to email somewhere around that they could do this, or even phone up here to the school to talk about those hotspot availability. So I will be taking those requests. So if anybody is in need of a hotspot to get public or access to internet, I will be doing that through next week, and then we will submit that grant and hopefully be able to pay for those to enable our community to have hotspots, even for those community members that may not have internet now. So with that, Mr. Daugherty, do we have any questions just yet? Okay, we've got public participation coming up, but we will, if we've got anything, we will accumulate those questions until public participation, and I will answer them at that point. Dr. Swab, back to you.
Thanks. Does anybody have questions for Mr. Hurst throughout his report? Hearing none. Next, Mrs. Brewer, do you have an update for the Career Center?
Can you hear me? I just spoke to the Director of Student Services on Friday, and we have 26 seniors enrolled and 24 juniors enrolled at the Career Center. So we will have 50 students who are currently enrolled at the Career Center, and they start the week before we do. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Mrs. Brewer? Thank you. Next, Mrs. Serber, do you have anything for a treasurer update?
Just a couple of things I'd like to talk about tonight. Last Friday, we had the privilege of being involved in the Comprehensive State Literacy webinar, and there were 3 of us involved, Mrs. Levy, Mr. Hurst, and myself. We're preparing for this grant, which is a 4-year grant, and I think it's going to provide us a lot of opportunities. Kim Puckett from Milton Union is very enthusiastic and is actually working with Mrs. Levy. They've done a great job on this grant. It's been very impressive, and hopefully that's going to start coming to fruition and be put in use here very shortly. Now, a week from tomorrow, I will be involved with the roundtable with Keith Faber, and I'm hopeful to get some insight from the state auditor's office as to what the thoughts are here in the future with COVID and how we're going to be reacting to it, because in my rather long history of schools, this has been some of the most interesting times I've ever seen. So hopefully we can get some idea of thoughts of operations, standard procedures, certain things that will be thought of to be advantageous to the district. And then on the last note, we are in the process of receiving approximately $20,000 of CARES Act money through the state, actually be a little more than that, which will help complement some of the things that we're having to do as a result of trying to operate in this environment. And which I said it is quite different. So with that, there are lots of things going on right now. We had a month of closing books and trying to get everything back in line for the new year, and we were successful with that. But I think we'll be talking about a lot of these things in the future as time goes on. And with that, I'll conclude my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Hearing none. Next, Joe, do you have any public participation questions?
As of now, I see nothing on our YouTube channel, and I see nothing from our emails, so no.
Okay. Thank you very much. So next item is entering executive session. Do I have a motion for item G1 on our agenda?
I so move.
I'll
Thank you,
second.
Maria. Roll call for approval.
Pastor Rindle,
Yes.
Mr. Bisek,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
So we will return to this portion of the agenda at the beginning of the financial reports from the treasurer at the conclusion of our executive session.
All right, streaming is back on. Tristan's going to give me the go-ahead. I'm going to tell our administrators that we're in here that they can come back in.
Scott,
Yes.
I need to step away for a few minutes. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we are live again, so we can go ahead and start with, well, I'll give it back to Dr. Swab. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. It is 7:38 and we've exited executive session and are currently at the financial reports from the treasurer portion of our agenda. And this is consent calendar items 1 through 9. The superintendent recommends approval of the following: the financial journal for July 2020, the check register for July 2020. Then and now certifications of bills, the encumbered payable of $900. Next is approving permanent appropriations for the necessary amendment. Item 5 is approving transfer and advances. A transfer of $20,000 from the general fund to athletic fund. Advance from the general fund of $97,994.64 to fund 5079021. Advance from the general fund of $108,886 into the fund 5169021, Title 6B. Next is advancing general fund $10,000 into fund 5999021, and then advancing $20,000 from the general fund to fund 599120. Next item is recommends approving petty cash funds of $1,500 for athletic department, $80 for the cafeteria fund, and $50 for the central office. Approving the customer agreement for Forecast 5 Analytics for the 2021 school year for $7,105. Approving coronavirus money in the amount of $21,893. And lastly, approving the contract of Quiescent Leasing for postal meter rental agreement for 63 months in the amount of $335 a month. Do I have a motion to approve the items before us?
I'll move to approve.
And
I'll second.
And thank you. And any questions or clarifications from the treasurer that we need regarding these items that we are to approve?
One of the things that I wanted to let you know, and Mr. Miller called me today, and I didn't catch it till I was looking here. The monthly payment is not a monthly payment. That's a quarterly payment. So I think that will answer Mr. Miller's question about number 9 with the leasing agreement. That's actually going to save us around $4,700 over the period of the lease of what we've been doing. The number 5, the transfers and advances, we have some new funds this year, and this is going to give us the ability to be paying that out and give us a chance to request that money back from the federal government. So that's the purpose of that. And other than that, if you have any questions on those items, please feel free to give me ask that of me.
See if I have any questions regarding Carla's explanations. Thanks, Carla. That's helps makes it more clear. Hearing none, do you have a roll call then for approval?
Did we get a first and second on that?
Did we or did I miss that?
Okay, it didn't come. You're not coming through to me now.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Mike made the motion. I second.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Pastor Reindl,
Yes.
Mr. Wiestecker,
I will abstain since I stepped out.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
We have no old business items. We do have new business items, consent calendar items 1 through 20. And the superintendent recommends the following: approving bus routes for 2021 as amended throughout the year by the transportation supervisor and superintendent. The approval of contracts with Spirit Medical for 2021. Approval of a grant from Dark County Foundation for $1,300 for Nick Balmer and Tina Schmitz used for community garden. approval of grant from the Dark County Foundation for $800 to Doug Albright to use for instrument repairs. Accept memorandum of understanding between the Board of Education and the Educational Association to transition to the new teacher evaluation called OTES 2.0, beginning in the fall of 2020. Accept contract with Jefferson County ESC for the online curriculum for 2021. Create 1 additional hour for 2 aides to ride bus routes in the morning for temperature monitoring of boarding students and assist with attendance and mask requirements during the COVID, for the needed COVID weeks as determined by the administration. Approving to move Rob Grillio to a master's column according to the negotiated agreement. Recommend the superintendent and treasurer be given the authority to approve all student activity budgets for 2021. Recommend the superintendent and treasurer authorize for 2021 school year to enter tuition contracts with other districts to provide for the education of students who are either residents of Bradford Exempted Village or being educated in other districts or being educated in Bradford Exempted Village, but legal residents from other districts. The board president shall also sign such contracts. And next, item 11 is we need to arrange for a delegate and an alternative delegate for the virtual conference to be scheduled on Thursday, October 29th. It's scheduled at 6:30. And do we have any volunteers who wish to allow me to pencil their names into item 11? Much easier than making a trek to Columbus. On October the 29th at 6:30. Let's see. Make sure I'm not running another meeting here. Which is a Thursday. If no one has an objection, I can serve as the delegate. Would anybody like to back me up?
I'll be your alternate.
All right. I love Zoom meetings. All right, so we'll do some more online meetings. Next item is approving a contract with Ansonia Local District for the transportation of enrolled students to Franklin District to comply with the individual education plans. Item 13 is approval of employee teachers for home instruction for 2021 at a rate of $20 an hour, not to exceed 5 hours a week for the assigned students. And number 14 is a resolution which declares transportation to be impractical. And it's a long resolution, and in essence, students identified were determined to be residents of the district, and evaluation of available options has determined that it's impracticable to transport them to their selected district. Therefore, the following identified by revised code to have been considered: 1, the time and distance, the number of pupils transported, the cost, whether similar equivalent services are provided to other pupils eligible, and whether to an extent the additional services are unavoidable to disrupt current transportation schedules, and whether other reimbursable types of transportation are available. Therefore, whereas the option of offering payment in lieu of transportation is provided, resolved, the Bradford Board of Education hereby approves the declaration that it is impracticable to transport students identified herein and offer the parents and guardians named on the attachment payment in lieu of transportation. And next, item 15 is early release, 1:10 p.m. along with the recommended changes to the 2021 school calendar. Item 16 is approving the 3 requested non-paid days for Haley Patty, September 23, 24, 25. Item 17 is approving the use of Wix.com for use in the sale of FFA fruit during the COVID crisis. Next is approving the remote learning plan for school year 2021. And item 19 is approving the purchasing of IR Camp Pro units, screening and facial recognition. Purchase will be made from local grants and possibly supported by the athletic department. Number 20 is accepting a new contract with New Creations Counseling for counseling services for students 1 day a week beginning 2021 school year. Whereas the board has posted the above positions, available employees that hold educational license, and no such employees meeting all the requirements have applied for, offered, or been accepted the positions. And whereas the board has then advertised these positions to licensed individuals not employed by the district, no individuals meeting all these requirements have applied, it is resolved that the above non-licensed individuals be employed as noted. Do I have a motion to approve the multiple items we just reviewed?
I'll move a motion to accept.
Thanks, Mike. And a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Louis. Any questions or comments regarding those items?
I got one comment. Was on number 7 where we create additional hour for 2 aides on ride the bus. I'd already talked to Mr. Hurst. I'm for if we need to go in the evening too. I hate to put too much pressure on the bus drivers watching the kids and driving the bus, so I'm all for. I think it's a good idea, especially in the morning when we're going to be head checking them for their temperature. But I also think it'd be a good idea for the evening too. So, but that's not on here, but I'm just making a comment.
Yep, I would concur. I think as needed for the safety of our students and staff. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, then roll call for approval.
Pastor Rindell,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
Next item is item 21, recommendation to create up to 2 positions to supervise our Bradford online students during the COVID crisis per job description. Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll
So moved.
Thank you, Scott. And a second?
I second.
Thank you, Louis. And discussion or questions regarding item 21? Hearing none, roll call to approve.
Pastor Rindell,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
No.
Item passes 4-1. Next item is item 22. Superintendent recommends approval of the final restart plan for the 2021 school year. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll move to accept.
Thank you, Louis, and
I'll second.
agree with a second. Thank you. Discussion or questions regarding 22?
Did I read a article that the Bradford Pumpkin Show has been canceled?
Yes.
Yes.
But we still had that on the calendar for an early out.
No.
If it's not already removed, we will take care of that. I thought we took care of that one, but we'll check it. And I will comment here, even though we are approving this, or I'm asking the board to approve it tonight, it still is subject to change with the Darke County Health Department. They have not approved it at this point. It has been submitted for their approval, but we have yet to have final approval through them.
So I guess if it is subjectively changed, then you would bring it back to us for approval if it's different than significantly different than what we're approving tonight.
Yes, we will.
Any other questions or discussions about the restart plan? Hearing none, then roll call for approval.
Pastor Rindell,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller, Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
Next is item 23, which is superintendent recommends second reading and approval of the listed policy on page 7. The policies and then the AGs. Do we have any questions regarding those policies? We had an opportunity to review them at our prior meeting, and I don't know if anybody had any questions, or if Joe, if you had any comments or questions from the board members regarding the policies or the reviews.
I would have to say most of these are just mundane updates, just to keep with the current laws. The one thing that I would like to point out, though, is we do have the last OTES Neola policy on there to be approved tonight is a first reading, policy number 3220. That is to mirror the OTES memorandum of understanding that we are proposing that has already been passed tonight. We will do an emergency adoption tonight, but we will still have to have a second reading next month at the September meeting. Outside of that, that's really, and I will say that was just supplied to us from Neola in reference to that MOU. So hopefully everything's in sequence and in parallel there, but everything else is very much just to abide by the law, with exception, well, I shouldn't say with exception, one description of that, or one further description, is the graduation seals, which is the administrative guideline 5460D. And that basically sets up different pathways for our graduates to be able to go either through the end of course exams like we normally do, or we can go through different seals that are appropriate for each of the students. So that would be the only difference.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, then roll call for approval of the final reading of the Neola policies and the first emergency reading and adoption of the OTES policy.
Pastor Reindl,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Joe, do we have any other
Yes.
public participation requests?
There are no more requests.
I should put my microphone in front of me, sorry. We have no more requests. However, the question, or we've talked here about the updated plan and the calendar. They are now on the website already. Mr. Daugherty has already placed those out there, so they should be easy to find even tonight.
Excellent. Bob, you look different.
Sorry, my computer died after all the trouble, and now it died.
So we don't have any other public participation. We're great. Okay. So next item is motion to enter executive session for item G1 on the agenda.
Did we get a motion to approve those Neola policies?
I did.
Did you get it?
I think we need to do that yet. We discussed them, but I don't think we had a motion or a vote yet.
I had a vote, but I didn't get the motion.
I thought it was Scott and Lindley.
Yeah.
I write it down.
I missed it, and I'm sorry.
That's okay. So let's just redo that for clarity to make sure that we have it correct. So like a motion to approve
I think that's what I did.
reading of the Neola policies. A motion to approve. I will move the motion. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Louis. And roll call again, please.
Pastor Reindl,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is a motion to enter executive session for item G1 on our agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
I'll second.
And Mr. Biesecker? Roll call, please.
Pastor Reindl,
Yes.
Mr. Biesecker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Swab,
Yes.
Mrs. Brewer.
Yes.
There will be no action taken after the executive session. We'll adjourn from the executive after executive session is complete.